here we are on Wednesday night. Wow, the first Wednesday of the month of April. I can't believe that we are in April already. Spring is here, the flowers are blooming, cherry blossoms are here and there and everywhere. And so here we are together. Welcome everyone to our new season of The Ultimate Coach. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this part of the globe. I invite all of you to be fully present tonight as we raise and continue to raise the consciousness of our being as the leaders that we are around the world. Every single one of us are our own leaders in our own right, within our own community, within our own area of the globe. And so I just welcome you. The Ultimate Coach book was written by the incredible and wonderfully inspiring, the ultimate author, Mrs. Amy Blake Hardison. And the researcher was by no means the most ultimate researcher, Mr. Alan D. Thompson. What a pleasure to know that they've dedicated part of their lives to create something magnificent for each of us and for all of us around the world. I would like to personally thank, and I know that the team and the community here would like to thank both of them for their magnificent commitment to creating the Book of Being, the Ultimate Coach, which continues to plant the seeds internationally around being. And it is creating an impact that can tickle, that continues to ripple across all the parts of the globe. We would like to acknowledge, of course, the ultimate coach, Mr. Steve Hardison, for listening to spirit, allowing himself to really listen deeply in creating the questions that are found at the back of the book and at the front of the book before you begin, which continues to create the presence of reading the book about me, about you, about ourselves. So thank you, Steve, from the bottom of my heart, how it's changed my life over the last 3 years. And of course, the impact that we continue to consciously create in each of our lives, internationally and across lands and sea, mountains and valleys, all over the world. So we are co-creating this event, the space for a deeper experience of the Ultimate Coach and the book, and to further explore our being as we gather today in community. This is a privilege that I feel that we can come together to share, to listen, and to read about me, about you. I'd like to right now thank Leanne Fontaine for being here tonight. Leanne, thank you so much for saying yes. Thank you for being our special guest in reading chapter 4, Risk. And Leanne, I'll have to tell you, I have read some of your posts and I went back and reread them. You are not only a poet, but you're a painter. You're an amazing creator who creates from the place of being. And you create from love and true surrender. And from your own words, I heard you say, the truth, I surrender and be in love from the truth that is from within me. And I think that those are some beautiful words that we can also capture within ourselves. Everything is created within ourselves. You have definitely impacted my life, and I know that you're impacting many lives in our community. And so thank you. Thank you for having said yes, Leon. It is our great honor that we thank you sincerely for being a yes in service and in saying, and in being here tonight, right? To taking the time to be with us. Thank you. So, question for all of us is, where are we from? Where are we viewing this community today? Where are you living? Where do you live right now? Where are you existing at this moment? So just type in the chat if you wouldn't mind. Iowa, I know I'm in California, Maryland, Wisconsin, Vancouver, Canada, California, Pennsylvania, Surprise, Arizona. I've never been there. Ecuador, welcome. Shasta, London, UK, Nevada, of course, Reno, my favorite city in the whole wide world. Texas, Argentina. Wow, how beautiful. Peru, Florida. Thank you so much, everyone. So you see what a community we spread from all over the globe. I would like to take this opportunity now to share with you a few intentions we have created as a team for all of us for this season as we embark in this incredible journey together. And so before I set the intention, I wondered if I could just ask all of you, just for maybe 30 seconds, if you would indulge me in just closing your eyelids for a moment and taking a deep breath in and allowing yourselves to allow the chatter in our brain and our mind to just dissipate so that we can be fully present in listening to the Book of Being the Ultimate Coach and how it will resonate with us, with you. And one breath in, and you can open your eyelids whenever you decide. This season, we have a downloadable PDF worksheet that you can take notes, which is phenomenal. This will guide you into capturing any ideas or thoughts that have come forward for you as you listen to the Book of Being the Ultimate Coach. And if somebody could please put it on the chat, thank you so much. You can download this PDF worksheet for yourself as a way of capturing, again, your thoughts for chapter 4. We are being called to action for each of us to focus on creating one line of our document and creating it from this chapter that we're going to be reading tonight. If you already have a document, we invite you to take a look at your document right now and notice if there is anything you would like to revise from the one line in your document that you notice, that you're focused on, that you might feel you want to revise. Look at it differently. Look at it from a different lens. We invite all of you who are newly creating or have already created your document to explore a new and fun way to implement one line of your document. Until we meet again next Sunday, where we'll have the opportunity to create another line of your document so that eventually you'll revise it, create it, or put it all into a document that you are really resonating with. So now I'm going to ask a question. You might wonder, why are we wearing hats? Why am I wearing this? Well, today is about our teenage years. Today, we are recalling our teenage years, where we were at the time when we were 17, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm wearing this because back when I was a teenager, this was really cool. These scarves were cool in different colors, different shapes. So this is my identity of my teenage years. And I'm going to ask you a question that you can either answer on the chat or you can sit with it this week and resonate with it and see what it comes up for you. And here's the question. What are some limiting beliefs that you had as a teenager that are still showing up in your life today? What are some limiting beliefs that you had as a teenager that are still showing up in your life today? With the opportunity to transform and transmute these limiting beliefs. And I just had the pleasure of removing us from our computer. Here I am, I see you now. So the journey tonight is to listen with our hearts. Our hearts have ears, and listen about you. As you hear the words that are written in these pages about you, allow for insights that may percolate up, that may stir your soul, that may feel uncomfortable or relaxed. And just be aware of them. Here in this space, we begin to enter into the truth of our being. And from this place, we recreate, we affirm, and re-express the essence of who we are. So, in ending, we request that you read about you, and when you listen about you. Liz, you want to take it off?
All right. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite chapters. They're all my favorite chapters, but this one's really good. I can really connect with it. So I want to kick us off, get us going, and I would love to see if you've got your book. Hold it up. I want to see who all has their book, who brought it with them tonight. If you got the physical copy, let me see you got it. So I want to find some people who want to be our readers. Leanne is going to be our chapter reader. And then I know that, Enyi, this is your first time here. You have got your book. Would you be willing to read the back cover for us?
I'd be delighted to.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
I will let you read the back cover. And then do we have anybody else that's here for the first time who would have their book with them that would be willing to read? Anybody else first timer?
Looks like Gabby.
I say
I
Gabby's
saw
got
her hand hiding over there a little bit, but
Okay. I say I don't
raise
see.
that hand up, baby girl. Come on, raise it up. Say, I want to read.
I was gonna say I don't see any other new people, but I do
Yes,
see
that's
Gabby's
right.
hand
Right
going up.
there.
So Miss Gabby, would you please read before you begin for us? Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. So first things first, same fashion as before. When we have our readers reading, please listen about you. If you are reading, then we want you to read about you. Gabby's going to be after Enyi. Enyi will read the back of the book, then we'll go into Gabby reading, and then Leanne will take over. So just sit with it, experience it, and go deep. You're reading, you're listening about you, and then we will do sharing where you will share about you. So Enyi, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Certainly do. Right. Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book, imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I'm interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hodge.
Gabby, go ahead.
Before you begin, Steve Hardison. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being, and it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison, The Ultimate Coach.
I want to take a risk and read the first page of my book and said, "Beloved Leandro, thank you for being magnificent to you. Thank you for elevated commitment, loving service for one humanity. We're being blessed, the ultimate." Gabipo. I don't know what it means. Every letter. So if it wasn't for me, for he just sending the book, I'm not here. Now, a risk. Chapter 4. It's all perfect. Steve was strutting his stuff. After all, a cute girl was watching. He went for wow and threw his bicycle into skid. He miscalculated. He crashed into the glass door of the donut shop, lying in rather sharp rubble, bleeding and stunned. Steve felt compelled to move. Seconds later, the glass that was still in the upper frame of the door came crashing down like a guillotine. Steve escaped serious injuries, but he needed a trip to the hospital to stitch up the gauges. Maureen ran in. She saw Steve sitting on the counter, his hat wrapped in a towel that was oozing red. He was alive. Well, her next thought, how are we going to pay for this? Another day instead in the life of Steve Hardison. Maureen held her breath when the phone rang, especially if Steve was out and about. Too often, the caller said, "Steve has been hurt." It's not that Steve was clumsy or unlucky. Steve's intensity creates a higher probability of injuries. An adventurous spirit, a person to impress, and a laser focus that ignores cautions, rules, and sometimes just plain common sense, and the plethora of injuries start to make sense. Steve suffered 2 concussions while on the junior high football team, and another when he fell while hiking in a canyon. When he was 11th grade, he knocked out his front teeth in a basketball game. A year later, he was water skiing and took a spill. The ski hit his bottom teeth, laying them back, nearly horizontal. The dentist has to wire his bottom teeth into their socket, and Steve subsists on a baby foot for several months. He has also broken his wrist and his collarbone, and torn ligaments in his ankle, all for the love of sport. Steve did not invite all his injuries. His favorite store in Clarefall was Melvin Shoes on Main Street. He often lingered at the front window. He would have loved to do more than window shop, but the shoes all cost more money than he had. One day, Steve broke away from his shoes, gazing to home. As he stepped into the street, his brother Phil yelled something about watching out. Steve stopped and turned to Phil. The car did not stop. The impact sent him flying through the air. He landed hard. Steve jumped and started walking around. When the policeman asked Steve how he was doing, Steve said, "I am okay. Really, it's not a big deal." What he was thinking was, "We don't have money to go to the doctor." The policeman let Steve walk home. When he arrived, they crowded into the bed. It was until his mom got home from that evening that he dissolved into tears. When Steve was 7, Maureen's boyfriends made little wooden boats for Steve and Phyllis. These weren't just basic boats. They had a cabin, a mast, and a craft hull. They were painted candy apple red. Steve had never had anything so exquisite. After bundling up in his heavy dark blue parka, Steve ran to the culvert at the end of the street to launch his boat on its maiden voyage. It had been raining. The water was flowing with unusual volume and force. The current tumbled and tossed the little boat and shot the downstream. Steve ran along the culvert until he found a spot where he could retrieve his boat. He reached out as far as he could, too far. The water was deeper than Steve was tall. The insulation inside the parka soaked, the fridge water and the jacket go anchor heavy. Steve trashed it. He reached out to grab something, anything, but got only a handful of water and terror. There was plenty of terror to grab. Suddenly, Steve was out of the culvert, sitting in the path. No one was around. Steve had not climbed out. Steve could not have climbed out. Maybe it was an angel. It's so. The angel's saving power was reserved for Steve. Steve never saw his red boat again. Twice. Steve was in serious car accidents. Twice, Steve was in serious car accidents and walked away unscared. When Rob was newly married, he bought a new Volkswagen Beetle. Steve longed to drive it. When he asked, Rob handed him the case and said, "Just don't get in a wreck." An hour later, Steve called, "Rob, I have been in a wreck. It hadn't been snowing." It hadn't been snowing when he left, but this was winter in Utah. A storm rolled in. The road got slick. Steve lost control. Stop was fine. The car did not fare as well. Steve had just totaled Rob's Steve had totaled Rob's new car. In addition to the accident and the sport injuries, Steve did plenty of rowdy and reckless things, the kind of things that have parents scratching their heads and seeing the studies about teenagers, brains not being fully developed until they are 25 years old. For instance, when Steve and his friends Larry Belknaps were seniors in high school, they went to Salt Lake City for a rock concert. Steve asked his man if he could get them a room to the road in so they wouldn't have to drive home late at night. At the hotel, they met a group of girls who were there as a part of a church event. The girls invite Steve and Larry to up to their room. They would have to be discreet and to avoid directions by the girls. Chaperones? Chaperones. They weren't discreet enough, Larry relates. All of students and adults was pounding on the door and saying, "Guards, what's going on there?" One of the guards said, "You guys have to go out on the balcony." It was the middle of the winter. It was late at night. It was freezing cold. But we climbed out on the balcony. It was no more than 2 feet wide. We were freezing, but we couldn't go back until she left. The chaperone started looking around. She was obviously suspicious. She said something about checking the balcony. So Steve and I had to climb over the railing of the balcony and hang onto the outside of the balcony. We were in a 12th story. We were shaking so badly, trying to hold on to this railing. The woman slid the curtains open and stepped on the balcony. She couldn't see us because we were hanging off the side. I guess she figured that she was hearing things and finally left the room. Not at all Steve's teenage adventures were this perilous, but many include a sense of daring, adventure, and mischief. During church service, Steve and his friend would skip out and go into the parking lot where they would hunt for unlocked cars. Once found, they put the car in neutral, something that could be done in the 70s, and push into the junior high parking lot, which was adjacent to the church parking lot. Then they would hide and watch the churchgoers exit the church and start looking for the car. Sounds a little like Tabasco sauce in Oreos. Steve and his friends also enjoyed launching apples from the local apple orchards at passing cars on Friday nights. Sometimes the driver slammed the brakes and chased the offenders. Sometimes they called the police. The boys learned to scatter. The police learned where Steve lived. Steve quips, when there was a trouble in Clearfield, the police showed up at our door. Some of Steve's devilry was more serious. He became adept at shoplifting. Steve never tried drugs, but he drank plenty of alcohol, a dangerous practice for the son of an alcoholic. Drinking was typical weekend entertainment for Steve and his friends, not unusual for his high school boys, but sometimes they drank before school. While working at Roadway as a linen boy, Steve would pour the leftover alcohol from the mini bottles people left in the rooms into the gallon bottle. When the bottle was full, they had enough for their weekend party. In really many of Steve's antics were not that typical for teenager boys, especially one who had an abundance of energy, little supervision, a love for adventure, and wasn't afraid to bend or break the rules. But for Steve, there was more going on. Underneath the bravado, the cool, and the charisma, Steve was lost. He was uncertain about his future. He was Afraid he would never grow. He felt alone. He had never unresolved issues from his childhood that he had stuffed down inside, down to his toes, so far down he didn't know they were there, so far down they wouldn't see the light for another 13 years. But there were still missing with still like radiation.
Mm. Thank you, readers. That was amazing. I'm gonna ask Anyi if you would like to share with us, since you are our first reader, and then we will go through to Gabby and then to Leanne. So Anyi, do you feel like you would like to share with us?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, mainly with relation to what came up about being.
Yeah.
I think there were multiple parts. I mean, certainly, I'm not a parent myself, but I think who would I need to be a more effective parent would have resonated with a lot of people. But with me personally, um, it's about being at peace with who I am. That resonated, as well as being fully in love with myself, and who I am, because that whole passage brought up it brought up feelings and thoughts about redemption, about how people can so often be written off, especially from quite an early age, and that never too it's never too late for a human being, that second chances are a thing that exists, and it would be quite easy for us to have dismissed Steve and perhaps written him off as a ne'er-do-well, a sort of person who'll never succeed and is probably going to spend the rest of his life in jail. But it just shows that miracles do happen, and especially probably more pertinent that people mature and they grow, they move on and move on up, and they end up developing and blossoming into beautiful, wonderful human beings, like chrysalis to butterfly. And I think that's shown with the sort of person Steve Chandler has eventually become from where he was, his roots. Um, I think in today's modern society, Steve's the kind of person that had probably been written off as having ADHD or something like that, and then just packed full of medication, and that perhaps would have altered the being who he would have eventually turned out to be. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that makes sense. That's really mainly what came up for me.
Yeah, I love your insight on that and how you really related it to a lot of issues that a lot of children are experiencing these days. And,
Yeah.
you know, being at peace with who you are and yourself and
Mhm.
who, you're you're an individual as, just authentic self. I love that. That
Yeah,
feelings of redemption. So yeah,
absolutely.
putting in a
Indeed.
box. Yeah, no
Redemption is
more.
key.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for your share, Annie. Thank you for reading. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And then Gabby, would you like to unmute and share with us?
Thank you, Elizabeth. And deeply experiencing and reading the book of being entitled Ultimate Coach about myself, listening about myself as of specifically in the chapter at risk. Before the book of being entitled Ultimate Coach, as of my experience of life, being at risk and consciously being at risk as of in the dark. And after, and I'm experiencing 33 times the book of being entitled Ultimate Coach about myself. And I was being at risk consciously, being at risk in the light, being at risk aware as of life is a risk. Embracing all those aspects of my total experience of all the parts of me, all the ways of being, if you will. And all those experiences that I myself have walked through. And it moves me profoundly to heal all those parts, to ever heal, to ever integrate, to ever transform consciously and as a constant, consciously embracing that I am being at risk consciously, and I embrace that. I embrace experiencing life here on this beautiful, loving planet that we are. So every word, the back cover of the book, the front page, the 2 front pages of the book, each word feel to you being is speaking, my being is speaking to me through the book of being, is that being consciously here now with all parts of me, with all parts of my humanity. I love you, each one of you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Leandro, for reading the very first part of that book. I remember all the creation that it took to send that book all the way to Argentina at the very infant ages when I was bananas sending books all around the planet. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Tremendously grateful. I love you all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gabby. That's beautiful. And I love how Leanne was able to share that first page with us and how that all transpired from your being in that conscious, consistent creation of who you are through the book and all the steps that you've taken to become who you are. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. Appreciate that. Leanne, would you like to unmute and share with us what came up for you while you were reading?
Thank you. Yeah. Every time that there is this chapter, I say, oh, definitely I can be this. I saw the intensity, the audacity, taking risk, and how Gabby said at that stage of my life was like at a lot of times was unconscious, so I was near death 5 times easily. So doing drugs, alcohol, feeling that your angel saved your life because you're not doing nothing to. I had like, I can write books about that a lot. And yeah, what I experience now is measured risk, is like conscious risk, it's different to go to Buenos Aires to see a lot with the possibility not seeing him because the flight or whatever, that being in the middle of the mountain a lot with the possibility of dying because everything is like going, the ground is going and you're very in the heights. So I'm more conscious now. And what make me find is that it makes fun for me that, and literally struck more for me that some Martha asked what belief system from that stage it's there. And I make a joke, and jokes are very real, and say, I don't grow up yet. And here it said, Steve was lost. He wasn't certain about his future. He was afraid he would never grow. That's what I can say. Gabby, we have work to do more, right? So that's thank you. I love the experience, and this community is just amazing.
Man, thank you. I love that. The angels, yeah. Sometimes, I don't feel like we're really present in the moment to really experience them. And then we look back and recognize how many times they showed up for us. And sometimes we are very aware of when they're there with us. And thank goodness, they were there to help you along your journey and get you to where you're at now. And then the other thing that came up for me with your share was conscious risks for creating moving forward, how important that really is. And I rewatched last season's just a few days ago, and it just really triggered me about a share that was given last season about how when we're young and we're teenagers, we're not necessarily making conscious decisions, we're just doing things. And how now, after, growing up and becoming an adult, reading the book, experiencing being, how now we're conscious about things. And now it's just like that switch and that conscious creation, and how different life is from that teenage aspect of creation versus where we are now. So thank you for your beautiful read and sharing you. I appreciate that. All right, Tom, I see you've got your hand up. I would invite you to unmute if you want to share what's coming up for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Leanne. Beautiful to hear your voice as always. Thank you, Gabby and Enyi, for reading. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah, this was an interesting chapter for me, and every time I read it, it's an interesting chapter for me because the instructions on the book say, read this book about you. And this specific chapter, you could almost replace the word Steve with the word Tom in this chapter. Almost word for word is about me, and even for very different reasons. I became proficient at shoplifting. I had car accidents. I had multiple concussions. I had all those feelings of not knowing who I am and being lost and feeling like the world that I was growing up in didn't make sense, wasn't for me. I wasn't one of those people. And yeah, and I mean, I guess what's coming up for me is a lot of the same things that everyone has been talking about, is the risks that we take when we're young. Some of us, not all of us, but that I mean, I spent so much of my time in hospital, and so much of, I got arrested for stuff, and I was in trouble at school and detention. And then the way that I first learned to channel that was through adventure and through rock climbing. And paradoxically, when I was 100 feet up a cliff clinging on by my fingernails was the first time in my life that I felt safe, because I had chosen to be there, and I had chosen who I was going to be there with. And I had put the piece of equipment into the rock that was going to keep me from falling. And that feeling of safety for me in the mountains has stayed with me my whole life. And so what's coming up for me in this moment, as I'm sharing and kind of rambling, is how grateful I am for that outdoor activities department at my school, and the opportunity to discover that I did have agency and that I was in control of the risks that I took. And yeah, in lots of ways, that period of being out of control and rebelling against life and parents and teachers and everything else, without that kind of chaos, I would just be living an average life. I think I would like that. Everything that I went through, which was a lot, put fuel on the fire of who I am and set me on this path to being who I am today. So there's a feeling of peace that I get from reading that Steve had the crazy childhood that he had, and look where he ended up. And there's hope for me, and there's hope for all of us. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that, Tom. And it really kind of helps us, take things deeper, look at our past, are those false beliefs still there? Are they emerging? Are they coming up? Or are you recognizing those now? Are they triggering you? Are you seeing how they're popping up in your life? Are you able to make those decisions to hang on that cliff comfortably and just be in control? Are you feeling like those non-useful feelings are still, coming up for you? Like, just really sit with it and explore those feelings. But as you shared that, it just really helps, us see how we really are able to be all of that and not limit ourselves. And it is that conscious creation that we choose to become who we want to be and be all of that. So thank you, Tom, for that. I really appreciate that share. Thank you. Is there anybody else who's feeling called to raise that hand to share? Miss Tanya.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you to our extraordinary readers tonight and your extraordinary shares. Really felt like I resonated with a lot of the sharing already. It's I guess there's no synchronicities, right? Everything is right on time, and the part in the book that it says Steve's intensity created a higher probability of injuries really, really resonated with me. I kind of go full force. Been known as the Cuban cowgirl, love riding horses, love adventure. I love it all. And with that additional risks, I did find myself injured a lot. And I found myself in a wheelchair at the age of 15. And it shifted my entire life. It kind of crushed some of my dreams because I thought I was going to get a college scholarship to go play volleyball, but I would get a cheerleading scholarship. I thought, and it shifted my life. I no longer went to high school. I was stuck at home in a wheelchair. And I've actually had 7 knee surgeries in total. And so the real call for me and why I'm sharing this is because I recognize where there are just some risks that I don't take anymore because I try to stay in this safe zone. And how is that doing me an injustice? And so I had an experience this past week where my family went, they wanted to go skiing where there's snow and where there's ice. And when you say snow and when you say ice with my knees, I'm like scared. Like all of the feels become present. And I recognize I really didn't want to go. I really tried to get out of the trip. But I went anyways, and I was a really good bag girl and a hot chocolate girl at the end of the slopes when they went skiing. And but then at one point my son said to me, "Mom, since Dad and my brother are up on the slopes, will you walk up the slope with me? And immediately my heart started to think, I can't do that. That's too much of a risk for me. I can't do that. And I didn't want to disappoint him. And so I did it. I was very careful and I put one foot in front of the other and I did it. And when I was standing at the top of the mountain after I did do it, I thought to myself, wow, how many times do you tell yourself you can't? How many times do you tell yourself you can't do that? And in the moments that I'm just standing there in my boots on the top of the mountain, and I see this lady skiing by, and she's got 2 babies, one in one arm and one in the other arm, no poles, and she's just skiing down the mountain. And I'm thinking, wow, look at how powerful she is. Look at what she's doing. She empowered me that, like, wow, maybe I really can do more than I think I can. And so the next following day, my family wanted to go tubing. And so we take this bus all the way up into the mountain, and I'm surrounded by more snow than I've ever seen in my life. And I started to get nervous again. Oh my gosh, what if I fall? If I fall, I go down and I'm in a wheelchair again. I don't want to slip. I don't want to get hurt. And but I noticed. And that's the key, is in the noticing of our negative thoughts, of our unuseful thoughts. And so in my noticing, I immediately started to say to myself, Tanya, I forgive you for judging you. Tanya, I forgive myself for judging myself right here and right now, that I can't do this. As a possibility, all you have to do is focus on just putting one foot in front of the other. And that's it. That's it. You don't have to worry about what might happen, because I'm watching people slide down the mountain and their legs are flopping all over the place. I'm thinking, oh, good Lord, my knees, if my knees pop out, that will be the end. Like, that will be not good. Like, that won't be good. And so again, I caught myself again. And I was like, no, I forgive myself for judging myself. I forgive myself for judging myself. Just take one step at a time. And so then I grabbed the tube and I went and went where we were supposed to take the tube, and I went up the mountain. And as I'm just resting on the tube, gliding up the mountain on this tube, again, I started to get nervous, and I started with the negative thoughts, and I immediately went back into, I forgive myself for judging myself. For what is a possibility is more true, is that I can do more than I think I can. As a possibility. Just be here, be now, embrace the moment, embrace the beauty that you're surrounded by. Embrace this moment as a possibility. You will never experience this again. All there is now. And I went down that mountain and I had a great time. Had a beautiful time. But it was in the noticing of where my thoughts were taking me. It was immediately, like, I forgive myself for judging myself. Like, this works because I immediately shifted it, and I was able to bring myself to the present moment. And what was so incredible, how the universe works, divine universe, when I was loading onto the plane, and this airport that we were at was so small, there was no, like, you had to walk onto the tarmac and walk upstairs to get to the plane. So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, let me just get one more picture. The snow is so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Let me just get one more picture. So I tried not to get the plane in it as much as I could. I snapped the picture, and afterwards I look at the picture. And the picture, the only part I got in the picture was the part of the American airline that says "can." And at the top of the fin of the plane, it was all surrounded by white clouds. But in the one spot, there was just a blue part of the sky that was in a perfect heart. And it was right on top of the fin of the plane. And I thought, okay, as a possibility, maybe I can do more than I think I can. And how is that true for all of us? Where do we maybe cut ourselves short from a trauma experience or something that scared us and created a level of fear that is really challenging to overcome? But when we do the self-forgiveness work and when we actually state what is a possibility, what is more true, that created an experience for me that I could be present and I could be in the now. And it was an extraordinary experience. So I just want to thank everyone that has been an impact in my life. And a special thank you as well to Kathleen Puda, who taught me the self-forgiveness wheel, because I immediately started to forgive myself when I noticed my unuseful thoughts that were taking me down a black hole that wasn't allowing me to be fully present. So thank you for letting me share. That just happened. I just got back from that trip. So it's really present for me. And I'm honored to be able to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Your trip was amazing. The pictures, being able to see that, and just experiencing you coming to life in this share, in this moment, has been a blessing. And all the questions that came up for me, how are your fears limiting you? You know, sit with that. How was the view from the top of the mountain? I mean, you were afraid to go up there, but you went to the top of the mountain. You know, what would it have been like if you wouldn't have, addressed that fear? And what is the blessing of being in a wheelchair, looking back, it could have been worse, right? It could have been better, but what was the blessing? Sometimes I think we forget to explore that. Is there a lesson? Is there a blessing? What's the purpose of this thing that I had to go through to experience? How is it growing me? And then are we present to really see all of the gifts, the angels? You saw it, the plane, the sky. That's beautiful. I'm so glad you were able to share that, because I hadn't heard that from your trip. That's amazing.
Thank you, Liz. And you know what was present for me was I really just started to bless my legs. I started to bless my body. I started to just go through every part of me and think that I was here and that I was now and that they were working and that they were operating as best as they could. And literally all that I needed to do was put one foot in front of the other and embrace the moment.
Yeah, beautiful.
So,
I'm
thank
so
you.
happy for you. Thank you for sharing that story with us and who you're being. Ralph, I invite you to unmute and share what's coming up for you.
What's coming up for me is I took a lot of the risks as a teenager in brotherhood and with my peers, girls as well. We got into trouble all together. I mean, and I'm sharing here in brotherhood with Leanne and Tom, who are my brothers, and Annie and many of you as my peers in the community. And if I look at the reckless things I didn't see a box. And Steve didn't see the box. And I didn't feel the box. I didn't realize there are limitations to when I next break a bone or have numerous concussions. So what I took away from this chapter, reading it about myself more than the first time, is that we take risks when we're toddlers. We walk, we're not afraid to fall, we're not afraid to learn to walk. We take risks as adolescents. Then our prefrontal cortex kicks in, and of course we can take risk more maturely. But some of our limiting fears from past risks can rule our adulthood. That would be my experience. Even though I've still taken risks, big risks in my adulthood. So at this stage, and this is what I learned in the document creation, going back to the early stages of falling and formative years, to my teenage years, to now, is that I can remove some of the fears and take risks now, because taking risks is fun. It's beautiful. We can do it in community. We can do it in brotherhood as I do with my brothers, and we can do it together in Birmingham and other events and here. it's risky talking about these things, yet still it always pays off. That's the personal development journey that, you know, and community development journey that we're all on, that we take risks together and trust each other and maybe repair a little bit of what's been undone from those years. So I take less limiting beliefs from those years and more the fact that I just, you know, I probably had ADHD. I was always moving. I was always active. I was always taking risks with my peers. I got arrested in school with my dad bringing the Royal Military Police to the door of the classroom. And these things are nightmares at the time, but you take the risks and they teach you. So absolutely, I agree. And it was beautifully read by all the readers. And, you know, yet again, at whatever time it is, 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm just so happy to be here. Leanne, I love you. Everyone, I love you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ralph, for your beautiful share. I love the boxes. No boxes. Don't put yourself in a dang box, right? And, you know, that's one thing I personally experience in my life is all those times where I shrunk myself to put myself in a box because just felt like you can't show up as your authentic self because of the judgment and things like that. Screw those boxes. We are meant to be seen, people. And then take the risks. They grow you. Yeah. Just maybe be wise about some of the risks that you're taking if they're not serving you, right? I love that. I love that share. Damien, would you like to unmute and share with us?
I have no stories.
None.
So, I like what Tom and Ralph said. I try to find where the humor is. So so a couple things in the story when Steve talked about getting hit by a car and told the cop, I'm okay, I'm okay. You know, when I was a kid, I ran across the street to go get my friends. My parents are there, go get them. I said, okay. I ran. Some car nailed me. I flew up 20 feet. And all I remember is spinning. That's all I remember. I remember spinning. And then finally I landed. And I sat on the curb. And as I sat on the curb, I looked at my shoes and I was like, there was 2 holes in the top of my shoes. So obviously I was spinning in the air and just my feet were touching the ground. And then the guy came over all freaked out because he hit me. He just hit me right on my side. He was probably doing whatever, 20, 30 miles an hour, whatever. He just hit me right on my side and went flying. And nothing bothered me. All I knew was, nah, I'm okay. I'm okay. As I'm saying, okay, I don't want to get yelled at by my parents. I don't want to get beaten, and I don't want to get yelled at. That's all I knew. You know, as I'm staring at my shoes, there's 2 holes in the top of them. And so that's one incident. So I got a lot of incidents of should have been dead so many times. And so, but the joke that I'm finding is everybody's talking about limiting beliefs. I didn't have any. I had none. If I had a thought, I do it. I was fearless, you know? So my curious question I would ask everybody is, repercussion was not in my vocabulary. If I want to go steal a car, if I want to go have the cops chase me on purpose that I instigated, you know, just for fun, to mess with them, you know, and getting like this far away from getting beat up. So it's like, what's the opposite of repercussion? You know, and the joke is, this is the joke I find. How can I say this right? Any risk I take today is not a risk. The joke is, I mean, what I did insanity for fun, I had 0 fear. So I would like 3% of that if I'm thinking of doing something today. I think of doing something today. Will it work? It might work. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? When I was young, it's like fearless. no repercussions. So what's a positive of what is a positive of because the truth is, if something doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Because the joke is, you know, I said this, I always say, you know, it's like in the movie business, take one, cut. That's a mistake. Take two. Now you can't have take two or take three without take one or two. So there's no negative. But so maybe somebody has the magic word. What's the opposite of when I was fearless in just you know, had no blocking beliefs as a kid, no repercussions. So what's the opposite of repercussion getting in my way today? There's my curiosity question. How's that?
I like that. I like that question. You know, fearless, fear less, right? Stop letting it rule your life. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We will let Miss Olga share, and then anybody who wants to share past that, we will invite you to join us in the afterglow. So we will let you go ahead and unmute Miss Olga and go ahead and share what's coming up for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being in this beautiful space that we are creating together today, tonight, or this morning. I wanted to share something that has come up to me as we were reading this chapter. It's on page 32, and it's just the second paragraph from the bottom, when what happens is Steve, he is hit by the car. And when the policeman asked Steve how he was doing, Steve said, "I'm okay. Really, it's not a big deal." What he was thinking was, we don't have money to go to the doctor. And that thought has hit me in a really special and unique way today as we were reading it, because I realized how many times in my life I would say I'm okay, and I was not, for one reason or another. And how it is really difficult when we live from that place of surface and making things just look okay, and they are really not. I think it's the worst, actually, just, you know, for me, place I could imagine, because there is no authenticity. And so that really stood up to me today, as well as what has come to me also with this thought when he said, you know, really not a big deal, but the real reason was, you know, there are no money for me to go to the doctor. Also, what has come up to me also, just giving help and receiving help. You know, I know that it's very common for us as humans to give help, and it is just so super difficult when you want to give somebody help and they don't want to receive it, or when you are the one who just doesn't want to receive it, as it was just, you know, in a Steve case. And I have witnessed that many times. And I have realized, I mean, this thought is just one thought there, but I just realized, wow, this is really, Olga, today, this is really, you know, a lesson, you know, for you to ask yourself a question, who you are being when you are giving help, and who you are being when you are on a side to receive a help. And I see that there is still discrepancy, that I'm more on that side, more comfortable on the side of giving help, rather than receiving the help. And so for me, that's a place that I really would like to investigate. What is there for me? And so that's what I would like to share today. I love you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga, for that powerful share. Just listening to that really, as a mom, when you ask your kiddos, how are you doing? I hear all the time, especially from my teenage daughter, I'm okay, but what really came up for me is like, who do I need to be when I'm asking people that question? Like, what kind of a listener do I need to be? Because so often I feel like when people ask us or we ask people, how are you? We're so quick to say, I'm okay. And I feel like more often than not, I'm okay means I'm really not okay. So just being in tune to listening and listening at a deeper level when people ask or answer either way, is there more to that? Is I'm okay really okay? So thank you for that, Olga. All right. Well, with that, we are going to pass it over to Mr. Ken. He's going to bring us home and then we are going to party. So energy, it's coming. Bring it, Ken.
All right. I just want to close this out before I go into what I need to talk to bring us home on this here is that understand why we are all here, why we are all asking each other to read this book about ourselves. We need to be who we need to be. And the most powerful word that you could bring to yourself in order to do that is to choose to be who you need to be every single moment. We aren't just sitting here reading a book week after week, season after season. We are showing up every single moment to choose to be who we really want to be and who do we need to be every single moment. And I'll end it by saying this. I see the back of the book and I read the back of the book, and the one phrase that keeps coming up, the question is, who would I need to be an effective parent? I'm going to change that to who do I need to be an effective adult? I went through a shitty teenage childhood, all those things here. And like Tom and like Ralph is sharing here, I could have made the choice of letting society tell me that I belong in jail. I belong in a grave based off the decisions that I made. To be a remarkable person that I need to be every single day is look at the shit that I did in my past and stop judging others who are doing it here and be that person to be and grow them the way they need to be grown and bring this to them to share and learn and choose who they need to be. All of us, majority of us have children here. How many things have your kids done that you've done 10 times worse, and you jump their shit and you punish them and you keep going on them and you're jumping on them? Who are you being as a parent, a grandparent, as an adult? Stop judging. Who do you need to be? Who do you need to be to stop judging? And that is stop judging yourself first. Forgive yourself first. And then be there for the people that are in your life who need you to be there every single moment. So I want to thank each and every single one of you for being here tonight, sharing this in this community, being here week in, week out, day in, day out, morning, noon, and night to go through this here and learn together who do we need to be to grow ourselves to be the humans that we need to be. And that is choice. So thank you all for being here. I want to thank our special guest reader tonight, Leanne Fontaine, for being here. Leanne, I just got to tell you this real quick here, buddy. I remember when you first showed up in our community in season 4, buddy, you were on a couch, you had your shirt off, you were laid back and you were relaxed and you just shared yourself, brother. You showed up. This is who I need to be. And you know what? You all need to be the people to accept me. And I love you for that, man. Here you are being a guest reader here tonight. So thank you so, so much. for being here tonight. Anyi, are you still on here? I don't see you. Okay, you're here. There's people are shaking here. Thank you, sir, for really involving yourself when you were reading here. When you emphasized every single line on there, man, you put me right there to experience who you are. That was awesome. So thank you for being here for the first time, and thank you for volunteering, and thank you for sharing. Miss Gabby Puma, every time I hear you read, I don't just hear your words, Gabby. I'm in your emotions. And your emotions show up, and you really dedicate yourself to what this whole thing is all about here. And it makes me want to be more and more like you every single day. Thank you for sharing you tonight. I'd like to thank our Team Tuck members who started us off, took the middle, and that was Miss Martha. Always a pleasure to have Miss Martha on here. Always a pleasure to listen to her. Always the pleasure to have a woman like her just stop everything and slow us all down before we even begin, to get us into the moment. And she's an expert at doing that. So thank you, Martha. Miss Elizabeth, my wild girl and partner in crime. Love you. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for being you and showing up and working this room like you were on stage, and you are the comedian, the singer, the everyone, all at the one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this. I'd like to thank each and every Team Tuck member here and not here. For those who are not here who show up on Sunday, I want to tell each and every one of you that this is a community that's created behind the scenes so we can bring it to the people week in and week out, season after season, Wednesdays and Sundays. Every one of you are phenomenal. And I am so ecstatic to be part of this. And I want to give a special shout out to Miss Tanya, our leader, our comrade in arms. Every single call, she's there. This year, or this season here, she stepped up even more of a leader and gave us the opportunity, each Team Tuck member, to grow like she has grown for the last 5 seasons. And I thank you, Tanya, for opening up the door for each and every one of us and give us an opportunity to be you, even if it's just a slither of a moment here. I acknowledge you 100% for the leader that you are. And last but not least, every single one of you who dedicate themselves to be here at all odds of the day, all hours of the day. Ralph, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Dude, do you ever sleep, man? Do you ever sleep? All right. I thank each and every one of you for being here and experiencing this and understanding the reason why you show up every single time is because you become a little bit better for yourselves every time you leave this call. So you can personally go out into this world and bring this movement worldwide. So continue to do it. And for those that showed up for the first time, I love you. And I hope you continue to show up either tonight or Sunday or both days. So thank you, each and every one of you for being here. So now let's get into the announcements. Our next reading will be this Sunday. It will be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be going over chapter 5, which is Finding God. And our special reader is going to be Derek Williams. So if you could make it at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, please do. Same link. That's all you have to do is click on the same link here, and you'll be on the call with us here to go again on Sunday. Now, a couple of events that are coming up, and as we've been saying since season 4 and into season 5, the next Ultimate Coach B movement is going to be held at the Birmingham, UK. It's going to be held on May 25th and May 26th. If you haven't signed up to go yet and you haven't received your tickets, please put something in the chat and one of the team members will reach out to you where you can go ahead and sign up. Now, I want you to understand that none of the participants, nobody at any of these events take any kind of income for being there, doing what they're doing. All the money that is raised is for a beautiful purpose. This year's at the United Kingdom one, all the money is going to be donated to the Cochlear Implant Hospital for Children to support children who have hearing impaired. Now, this is a new opportunity for children to become listening, where they can hear better. And please, even if you can't make the United Kingdom, if you find it in your hearts to donate, to go to this worthy cause, that would be awesome. Now, I want to also let you all know, for the first timers here especially, we don't just have this book reading. We just don't have this book. Since the inception of this book, when it came out here, how this community, how this movement is moving, we got a YouTube channel, we got a podcast where we have exceptional people that come on there and we just talk about the being movement here. We got the Ultimate Coach Instagram, we got the LinkedIn group, we got YouTube channels, we got digests, newsletters that you can sign up for that you get on a weekly basis for free. And on Fridays, we have live conversations every single Friday with some of our Team Tuck members here that host speakers that come on and they show up on Friday nights to talk. And we got the Ultimate Coach Extras. All you have to do is go to the ultimatecoachextra.com to learn more about that. So if you'd like to have any more information about that, please, please do not hesitate. It's important not just to take this information, but take this and take action on this. Don't just show up to listen and got the information and be on your way. Really become part of this here and get it out to the world. This is what it's all about. And lastly, I would like to invite each and every one of you right after this to the Afterglow party. This is not going to be recorded. This is not going to be live. This is for anyone who did not want to go ahead and share in the group here and be on video, do that, to share on a more intimate level here. So please join us for the Afterglow party right after that. And now, what I like to do is I like to invite each and every one of you up. Before I do, I got Miss Gabby's hands up there. Gabby, would you like to say one more thing before I take us home?
Yes, you who is listening this now, you who is watching us here in Zoom, in Facebook, through YouTube, through all our channels, I appreciate who you are, but to move you really to who you can be, take the ultimate risk as of this moment. We'll provide you the link, get your ticket for the Ultimate Experience Birmingham, be the Ultimate Experience Birmingham. That is coming up. I'll see you there. I'll hug you. We'll be together creating miracles that is going to ripple throughout the whole planet. Who would you need to be to take that immediate action? If not all of us, 20 of us, we are right here, got the ticket just yet. And please bring somebody you love, you care so deeply. Bring them on. Who would you need to be to commit them, to commit to get the ticket? Be an ultimate risk, embracing the fullness of you, the fullness of life. Who would you need to be to take that immediate action? What Ken is inviting us. I promise you that your life will never, ever, ever be the same. I promise you on that, and you can count me on that. See you on May 25th and 6th in Birmingham. Do yourself the favor. Take this ultimate risk. Be the ultimate risk. I love you. Take action.
Love you, Gabby. Thank you so much here. So at this time, I invite all of you to go ahead and unmute. And Wish everybody a great night, great morning, great afternoon, and give everybody some love as you're walking out. And
Pasen
leaving.
bien.
All right,
Awesome,
thank
wherever
you.
you
Thank
are.
you, everyone.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Yes, take care. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Leanne,
Thanks,
Annie,
Leanne. Thanks for the
Gabby.
Bye.
amazing reading.
beautiful everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Gabby.